Hi, welcome to Ada's Reading Retreat. Are you ready for adventure? Today's story is called Peter Pan Lost and Found. Peter loses his shadow, who will help him find it. So read along with me to see how Peter finds his shadow. Before we begin, hit that subscribe and like button and turn on your bell notification of new stories. All children grow up, all except Peter Pan. When he was very young, Peter ran away to Neverland, where he could be a boy forever. Peter didn't have parents, but he did have a very dear friend, the fairy Tinker Bell. Tinker Bell was so small that she could fit inside Peter's pocket if he'd had one. Peter didn't mind not having parents, but he did wish he had someone to tell him a story, especially at bedtime. One night, Peter decided to find a story. "Come with me," Peter said to Tinker Bell, and they flew out of Neverland. They flew until they heard a girl's sweet voice saying, "Once upon a time." Peter and Tink snuck in a window. They listened to a girl named Wendy tell a story about Tom Thumb. "Humph," said Tinker Bell. She spoke fairy words, which sounded like the tinkle of bells. Tink wanted to be the one to tell Peter Pan a story, but she didn't know any. Suddenly, Wendy saw Peter. Peter and Tink flew away, but not before the dog got Peter's shadow in her teeth. After Peter and Tink flew home, Tinker Bell chimed loudly. "What is it, Tink?" Peter asked. Tink pointed at the shadow of a tree. She pointed to the ground behind Peter. "But there's nothing there," said Peter. Then Peter understood. "Where in the world is my shadow?" he cried. "That dog must have snapped it off." Peter and Tink flew back to Wendy's house. "There you are," said Wendy. Peter forgot all about his shadow. He forgot about Tinker Bell. "What about that story you were telling?" Peter asked Wendy. "It has a happy ending," Wendy said. Tink couldn't tell Peter a story, but she would find Peter's shadow. She looked in a drawer. She started to look in pockets. Wendy saw the open drawer and shut it, with a bang. Tinker Bell was trapped inside. "Does anyone hear a tinkling sound?" asked Wendy. Peter opened the drawer. Tink flew out in a fury and threw Peter's shadow to the floor. Then she flew away, trailing the sound of angry bells. "Clever Tink," Peter said. "She found my shadow." Wendy took out a needle and thread. With careful stitches, she sewed Peter's shadow to his feet. "Clever Wendy," Peter said. "That didn't hurt a bit." Then, with a wave, Peter flew out into the night. "Don't go, Peter," Wendy cried. "Please come back. I know lots of stories." Back in Neverland, Tink was still angry. "Wendy didn't mean to shut you in the drawer," Peter said. "Is that what's got you all a jingle?" Tinker Bell shook her head. She pointed to Peter's heart. She pointed to her own heart. Peter understood. "Wendy is my new friend," Peter said. "And you are my dear old friend. There's room in my pocket for both." Tink tugged on Peter's shirt. "I very well know, I have no pockets," Peter said. "By pocket, I meant heart." Tink's laugh rang as bright as gold bells. "Now, come along, Tink," said Peter Pan. "Let's find out how the story ends." I hope you enjoyed this story, and if you want more exciting stories, kindly hit the subscribe and like button and turn on your bell notifications. See you next time on Ada's Reading Retreat.